What's up guys, Xcode here, and welcome to my Swift 4 course. In this course you're going to learn the fundamentals of Swift 4, which is the programming language of Apple. The goal of this course is to introduce you to the techniques used to develop applications for iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch using the iOS 12 operating system, the Swift programming language, version 4, and Xcode. By the end of the course you'll be able to write simple iOS applications using Swift. The main course topics include how to download Xcode, building our first simple app, strings in Swift 4, numbers in Swift 4, Bullion and conditional logic in Swift 4, constants and logical operators in Swift 4, arrays in Swift 4, and loops in Swift 4. Take the first step in becoming an iOS application developer and join my course. I'll see you guys soon. What's up guys, Xcode here, and today we're going to be going over the main fundamental principles of programming in Xcode for iOS apps. So this course isn't going to make you a pro. This is specifically for beginners who don't know how to program yet in Swift. Basically this will bring you from inexperienced to probably intermediate, where you'll know all the principles and the main topics in Xcode programming. Alright, so we will be going over how to download Xcode from the App Store, building our first simple app. Now this app isn't going to be like a complex app, it's just going to be literally the most basic type of app you can make on Swift so you guys could understand what's going on. Then we'll be learning about strings in Swift 4. Then we're going to learn about numbers in Swift 4. Then we're going to go over Booleans and conditional logic in Swift 4. After that, we're going to go over constant and logical operators in Swift 4. Then we're going to learn about arrays in Swift 4. And finally, we're going to learn about loops in Swift 4. So I hope you guys are excited, and see you soon. Okay guys, in this lesson we're going to learn how to download Xcode in order to start making apps and coding. So first we're going to go to the App Store and we're going to search up Xcode, which is the app development program for Apple and iOS. So here we see that I already have it downloaded, so all I have to do is click open, but for you guys it would say get, like here. You would just hit get, download it, and you'll probably be good to go after that. So this is obviously essential in order to getting started to programming, because you can't program without the software. So yeah, download that and see you in the next lesson. Okay guys, so in this lesson we're going to be learning about strings, which is pretty much the most fundamental data type in Xcode and very, very essential in programming iOS apps. So here we have a string. This is a type. This is the name of the string, and then this is the components. What it is basically just a series of characters. And as you can see, it takes all types of letters. It takes spaces. You can put commas. You can put really anything. You can even put emojis, although that would probably not be useful. So here I'm going to show you a few things we could do with strings. Alright, so I'm going to make a string of my full name. So first name equals Zach. And then we're going to make my last name equals Sadui. So I'm going to run it. And here you can see it prints out Xcode as strings. That's what it would print out. So here we're going to make my full name. Var full name, equals, and there's many ways to do this. The first way we're going to use is we're going to add, basically add. So we're going to put first name plus last name, and that would print out exactly, but we always have to put a space in between in order to differentiate between the names. So we're going to print that out, and that gives us exactly my full name. We could also do this, var full name 2 equals, we create a string, but we put this in front, signifying that we're going to add another string into it. First name, actually, it's this, and then in parentheses, and then again this, and then parentheses, and then last name. And that should print out the same exact thing. And there we have it, same exact thing. Now, we also have another way of doing it. We could, so we're just going to do first name dot append, and then we're going to add a space, and then last name. So that should print out the full name. Yep. But we don't want that in first name, so we're just going to make full name 3 equals first name and then basically we got to make a var. So var, and then we have a new variable, full name 3, which prints out the same thing. So as you can see, there's several ways of doing this. Alright, so now we're going to go over a different thing, which is pretty cool. So we're going to create a new string. We're just going to name it show equals the twilight zone. And as you can see, it just prints out the twilight zone, but it's not capitalized. It just looks unprofessional. So if you ever just want to capitalize something real quick, all you got to do is hit that, and there you have it. Just capitalizes each word, which is a pretty cool feature. So as you can see, there's many, and that's just a basic understanding of what you can do with strings. When you actually get to programming and making loops and making arrays and all of that, strings are basically essential, and there's a lot of unique things that you can do with them, and a lot of crucial things for programming that require strings. So hope you learned a lot in this lesson, and join me in the next one. Okay guys, our next lesson is going to be on numbers. Basically what numbers are, there's 3 forms of number data types in Swift and most programming languages. Actually there's more, but these are the 3 basic ones. Int, which are a numeric data type and use up 4 bytes of memory with a maximum number of 2,147,483,647, which is a huge number, but it's really nothing compared to the other ones. Next we have the float, which is a floating point number, which means it is a number that has a decimal place. These are usually used when more precision is needed, and the max number is 3.402 blah 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 e to the 38, which means it's a 3 with 38 numbers after it. So it's an insanely big number. And that doesn't even compare to what a double is. A double is a double precision floating point number, which is basically more precise than a float, and it uses 8 bytes of memory. The max number of a double is 1.8 e to the 308th, which is basically almost a 2 with 308 numbers after it. So it's insane. I don't know when these types of numbers are used. These are probably for very complex programs, but you can see that doubles can hold a lot of numbers, or big numbers. So we're going to start by going over inference numbers. So when we declare a data type, an int. So basically, we can declare an int simply by almost very similar to the string, but except with numbers. So var int 1 equals, and we could just put a number 30, and that declares our number. Basically, this is a type of int, this is the name of the int, and this is the number of the int. So it basically infers that it's an int because there's no decimal place after it, and it's not too precise, and Swift is defaulted to infer that if it doesn't have any of those features, it's just an int, which is a way to save memory, and instead of using like a double, which takes up a lot of 8 bytes of memory, it just uses an int, which takes up 4 bytes of memory. So it's gonna give us 30, and you could do this with literally any number. Oops. You could do var int 2 equals 60 equals 600, anything you want, and it gives you that number. And you can make any name you want to. Next, we have declared ints, which basically, or declared numbers, which basically means that we declare what type of number, or like if we want it to be an integer, a float, or a double, we declare it. So let's say var int 3, and then you would put this, and let's say we want a float, you would put float equals 500.0, and there we have it, a float. Oh, sorry, we had to put a capital F. So there we have it, a float, which is 500.4. We can also just create we can create a double. All you do is the same thing, put a double in front, equals blah blah blah. We can make a huge number, whatever we want, and we'll have no problem. See, we wouldn't be able to do this if it was an int. It would be too large. See? Whoops. It says cannot convert value of type double to specified type int because it's too big. Now, if you want to change that number to something else, we would have to make it a double because it's declared as a double. So we're going to put 76, which is a double because it's basically, a double is basically just any number between its maximum, which this does fall into that. However, if we were to make this an int and wanted to change the number to something like a double, it wouldn't allow us because the number is way out of its range. This has to be See, it'll give us an error. Cannot assign value of type double to int, because this is declared as an int. Int3 is declared as an int, and this number is a double. So int3 can never be a double when it's declared as an int. So that's just the basics on declared number types. Now we're just going to go over a few functions. Let's say we have a var num1 equals 10. Then we have a var num1 equals 50. We can add these numbers by simply just using addition. Alright, I'm going to erase all this. Oh, whoops. Num2. So we're going to add these by using addition. So we're going to make a new num3 equals num1 plus num2. And that will give us 60. Yep, there we have it. So adding is extremely easy on Swift and basically any program. Same goes with subtraction. So we're going to make a num4 equals num2 minus num1, and that will give us 40. We can also multiply. Var num5 equals num2, and then just a star, which means times num1, and we should get 500. Yep. And we also have division. So num6 equals num2 divided by num1, and that will equal 5. So those are the basic functions that we can use in Swift in order to make calculations and whatever. I mean, this is very useful for apps, for basically any program, because every app is just filled with numbers everywhere. For example, if you're on your banking app, you're going to need to see your numbers of how much money is in your bank account, how much money you withdraw, how much money you added, anything. And then if you have like a fitness app, you got to see how much weight you've lost within time or whatever, or how many calories you need to intake, all this type of stuff. Everything in apps is fundamentally numbers. So here we have another function that is very useful. We're going to make new numbers. Number 7 equals, let's say, 17, and then var number 8 equals 10. So whenever you divide something that has a remainder, it's just going to give you basically how many times the number goes into the other number, and it's not going to give you like a decimal. So we're going to do num7 divided by num8, and that's going to give you 1. See? So if you want to find the remainder, we use the percentage sign. So we would do num7 percentage sign num8, and that should give you 7 if you want to find the remainder. So 10 goes into 17 one time, which is why we get 1, and if you divide 10 into 17, it gives you a remainder of 7, because if you take away the 10, all that's left is a 7, and 10 can't go into 7 again, so it gives you a remainder of 7. So that's another very, very useful function, and once you start programming, you're going to see that you're going to fall in many situations where this is very useful. So that's it for numbers. Hope you guys learned a lot. These techniques, these functions, and knowing all this stuff is very crucial in programming. Yeah, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Okay guys, in this lesson we're going to go over Boolean and conditional logic. So basically what Boolean is, it's just true or false. If this is true, this is going to happen. If this is false, this is going to happen. So it's just a way of telling the program what to do, telling the app what to do. Boolean is very useful in programming because it is basically the instructions of the program in a way. I mean, there's many other ways of doing it, but using Boolean is basically like giving it instructions. So here we're going to go into some examples. So we're going to create a variable and we're going to name it is this num 10, and we're going to equal it to true. And then we're going to make a var of num1 equals 10. And then we're going to make an if statement. If and then we put the condition, we would put is this, and when you type that in, when you type a bool variable in an if statement or like just there, it automatically means if it is true. Now if you put this, an exclamation mark in front of it, it would mean if this is not true. If this variable right here is not true, then whatever code is inside these brackets will happen. So if we take this out, it would mean if this variable that's in here is true, then this code will happen. So we're going to make this not if it is not true, then num1 equals 10. And then we're going to make an else if that means else is basically the opposite of what if is. So if this is not true, we will make it 10, and then else would be if it is true. So we're actually going to make this 100. And then else, we're going to do minus 10. Actually, sorry, num1 minus 10. So now we have a little if statement program that figures out if this variable is not true, num1 will equal 10. And if it is true, num1 will subtract 10. And we're also going to put equals true. We're just going to get rid of this else. So we're going to run this, print out true, and here if is not true, num1 will equals 10, and it's not going to run because it is true. However, if we take this out, we're going to get 10 and true, so it is going to run. So since the if statement is asking if this variable is true, this will happen, it's running because it is true. But if we put the exclamation mark again, it's not going to run. However, if we add an else with the brackets, and we put the same thing, the else will run. Just had to fix that. So now we see that the else will run because the else is basically the opposite of the if, and the if is saying if it is false. So the else is saying if it is true. Now the else is running and the if isn't. So this is just a simple way of using Boolean, which is this variable. This variable is Boolean. Now if we wanted to change this variable to an int, it wouldn't allow us because it already is a boolean. So we can't make it equals 10. It's just going to give us an error. Invalid redeclaration of this. You can't make it an int. You can't make it a string either, because it is of the Boolean type. Okay, now we have a bunch of conditional statements, conditional logic, which would basically be in like less than, greater than, equals. When you want to see, if you put something in an if statement and you want to see if something equals something else, instead of putting 1 equals, you put 2 equals. That's just how the conditional logic is formatted. And then if you want to put does not equal, you put exclamation mark and equal sign. So here we have 4 conditional logic functions, which is less than, greater than, equal to, not equal to. Now let's go into some examples. We're going to use an if statement again. So what we're going to do, we're going to make some variables. Var num1. We're going to delete this over here. Num1 equals 100. And var num2 equals 10. We're just going to delete this. Okay, so now we can do if num1 is greater than num2, this whatever is in these brackets is what it will do. There's also 2 other functions I forgot to mention. We can do less than or equal to and greater than or equal to. So these are pretty self-explanatory. Let's say it's saying is 0 less than or equal to 1, it would be true. If is 0 less than or equal to 0, it would also be true. And same except for the opposite with this. Okay, so here we have a problem. And that should be good. Okay. So now we're going to do if num1, which is 100, is greater than num2, which is 10. Do this. We're going to do print. This is how you print. You put print, parentheses, and then whatever you want to print. We're going to put 100 is greater. Actually, we're going to put num1 plus space is greater than, and then plus num2, and then we're just gonna get rid of those. So this is gonna print basically 100 is greater than num2. We're actually gonna just put num1 inside. We're gonna put num1, this in parentheses with this in front, and we're going to do the same thing here. We'll put that, all of it in the parentheses. Then we're going to do this, put the num2 in parentheses, and that will print out 100 is greater than 10. If this is true, which it is. So here we have it. 100 is greater than 10, and I don't want that new one. We're just going to add a space. We're going to remove this space here. Actually remove 2 spaces, and there we have it. Okay, so that is how you use that. Now if you want to do less than, it's not going to print out because num1 is greater than. However, if we put else under it and put this same exact thing in the else, it will print out in the else, not in the if. because the else is the opposite of the if. So in the else, technically it's saying num1 is not less than num2. Alright, and another thing we could do is we could put all this in parentheses, put an exclamation point in the front, because the exclamation point means not. So this is basically saying if num1 is less than num2 is not true, print this out. So this, in this case, is going to print the if and the else. Oh wait, the else it's not going to print because the else is the opposite of the if, and in the if it's printed out. However, if we put else, or maybe not, yep. Alright, so that is one example. Now, if we change this to 100, we can do this. If num1 equals num2. Now it's going to print this out because num1 is equal to num2. They're both 100. So let's run that and see it prints it out. 100, except we would have to change this, is equal to. So now it's printing out 100 is equal to 100, which is true. If we put not, then the else will print out. And the, oh, we got a problem. Oh yeah, we have to put this in parentheses. So this is all pretty self-explanatory. Now the else is going to print out and the if won't because it's not, and not this would be false. And here we have it. 100 is not equal to. Alright, so now we can put not equal to, and this will now, the if statement will now run because this is not true, and this is saying that this is not true, therefore it is true. So now the if will print out and the else won't. There's many ways of working with these conditional statements, and they're actually very fun to use and very, very useful. Not only in if statements, we can use them in pretty much anything really. So those are conditional logic, and I explained Boolean earlier. Boolean is basically just true or false, and conditional logic is basically just comparing one variable to another variable through all of these functions. I hope you guys learned a lot in this lesson, and join me in the next one. What's up guys, welcome back. This lesson we're going to learn about arrays and everything about them. We're going to learn some examples and we're going to learn how to declare them. So let's dive right into it. An array is basically a list of values. That's the definition in its most simplest forms. Now these values could be any type, or they could be a specific type. All depends on how you declare the array. And here I'm going to give you an example of how to declare an array. So we're going to start just like we would declare a string, an int, anything. We start with var, and then we give it a name, array1, equals, and then in brackets we just basically make a list of values. 78. You can do any types of values. String, another int, and another string. So then we would have to declare this array as any type, because we have basically any type of or different types of values or variables inside. So we would declare it as an any type, and then as you can see, prints out the array. And now if you want to see how many if it's a big array and you don't know how many numbers there are in the array or how many variables there are in the array, you could easily find out by just printing out the name of the array dot count, and that gives you the number, which is, the amount, which is 4. Now if you want to add another variable to the array, you could easily do that just by simply hitting array dot append, and then just add whatever value you want to put in. I'm just going to put in a random string, and here we have it. Same exact array except with an extra string, which is this. And then to find out the count again, we would just do the same exact thing. And now it should be 5. Now if you want to remove an item from an array, you would have to again call the array dot, and then this time you would put remove. Now this is interesting because when you remove an array, you have to remove it at its specific location in the array. And how arrays work, they don't go from 1, 2, 3, 4. They actually go from 0, 1, 2, 3. So every array starts at index 0, which is the first index. And then it goes 1, 2, 3. So let's say you have an array with a count of 4, like this one right here. If you wanted to access the fourth variable, that would actually be an index 3. So you would have to access index 3 to get this variable right here, which is the fourth. So when you want to remove, let's say we want to remove the fourth variable, you put 3. You put at 3, which would be the fourth number, which should be this. And since we add a new one, it's going to take out this array right here. See, it's printing it out, and now if we print out the array, let's count, sorry. Now if we just print out array 1, here we have it. It's the same exact array except with this string removed. Same exact array as this, except this is missing now because that was the fourth number, the third index, and we removed it. So I'm going to give you an example of an array full of ints. So we're going to declare it, var array int equals, and this is another way to declare an array just with a specific data type. We would just do array int and then parentheses. Create just an array full of ints. We could either do it this way or we could do it this way. Array int 2 and then in brackets int equals, and then you could fill it up with whatever ints you want. That would be another way to call an int. But if you want to declare an int array without filling it up yet, this is how you do it. And then we're gonna append a bunch of integers into this array. Dot append, and we're just gonna add 1. So we made a new variable in the array at index 0 of number 1. Then we would do 2. Then let's do 10, which won't fit in. And then 3, 4, and 5. So here the array is going to be 1, 2, 10, 3, 4, 5, which obviously the 10 is out of place. You know what, let's make this 6. So now let's print out the array. And this is what we get. What's cool about this is that it creates like a pyramid for us for every time, because the array starts with an index of 0 with only one number in it, then it moves to index 1 with 2 numbers in it, then 3 with 4 numbers in it, with 3 numbers in it, and so on. So it creates kind of like a pyramid. And then when we print it, it just prints how many were left at the end. Now, obviously 6 is out of place, so we're going to want to remove it. So array int dot remove at. Now, I want you guys to pause the video and guess what index this is. Okay, you guys should have got index 0, 1, 2. So 6 is at index 2, so we want to remove 6. And we removed 6 at index 2. Now we want to print array again. And we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. And now, lastly, we want to add the 6th in the right location. So, int dot append, and since 6 would be the next up number, we would just literally put 6, and there we have it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, I hope you guys learned a lot from this lesson. This is a basic explanation of arrays. These arrays are extremely useful and extremely convenient in Xcode and all types of languages. It is one of the most essential data structures in all of programming. So join me in the next lesson, and hope you guys learned a lot. What's up, guys? In this lesson we're going to be learning how to make a simple app. Basically what this app is going to do, it's just going to change the color of the background of the screen by clicking a button. So first step is to go on Xcode and click on New Project, and then we're going to click on Single App View, and then next we're going to name it Change Background Color, and we're going to create. So first we're going to go to the View Controller. This is basically where all the code goes for the app. You can make several of these View Controller files, but this is just a basic outline of what it looks like, and this is basically where the actual programming goes in the app. And then we're going to take a look at Main Storyboard. This is basically like the visualization of the app, and where you could like navigate through the view controllers and create buttons and label stuff and just like basically design your app how you want it to look. This is just to give you like a visualization. Theoretically, you could do it all through coding in the view controllers in the files. However, the storyboard makes it a lot easier to visualize it and see what you're actually doing. So first step is we're going to create a button. Let's click this to hide, to make more space. We're going to click on this, which is the library, and we're going to search up button. Then we're going to click on it and drag it to the center of the screen, and we're going to leave that button there. If you want, you can make it a little bigger. We could change the color of the button by hitting this, the element inspector or attributes inspector, and then text color, let's change it to black, and then you could change the background down here, let's change it to green. Okay, so here we have it. Let's balance it out a little. Okay, next we're going to click on this, which splits the screen, so you could take a look at the view controller and the storyboard at the same time. You're going to hit Control key on your keyboard and click on this at the same time, and then drag over here, and you're going to want to place it right in the middle of these two brackets. And you're going to let go. Make sure this is action, and name this Change Color. So that's going to be the name of the IBA action function, or IB action function. of your button. So basically whenever you click this button, you're going to activate this function, which inside here you would make some code in order to tell it what to do. So now we're going to click on this again. This basically puts it back to the standard editor, just one screen. And we're going to click on View Controller, and in here we're going to make all the code in order to change the background color to whatever we want it to be. So we're going to make it red and blue. So we're going to make a variable, Boolean variable called isBlue equal to true. And under here we're going to make an if statement. If is blue, this is basically saying if this is true, which it is, then this will happen. We're going to type view, which refers to our main storyboard view controller, view dot background color, and then we're going to equal that to if it's blue, we're going to change it to red, so we're going to be UI color dot red, and then we're going to change this variable is blue equal to false because it's not true anymore. So that's what goes in our if statement, and now we're going to make an else, which is basically the opposite of the if in the if statement, and we're going to copy and paste this and place it right under, except we're going to change this to blue and this to true. So now basically what's happening is when you click on the button, if it is blue, if isBlue is true, it's going to change it to red, and it's going to make isBlue false because it's not blue anymore. But if isBlue is false already, it's going to change it back to blue, and it's going to change isBlue to true. So that's pretty much it. What we've done is we've created a button in the main storyboard on the view controller screen. We've linked that button to a function here called change color, and in that change color we have an if statement that makes the button change colors when you click on it. So now we're gonna hit run. We're gonna hit whatever view you want. We could do let's do iPhone 8, and we hit play, which runs the app, and it's loading here. It's doing all the tasks, building all the tasks. And here we have the app. So as you can see, the button came out pretty nice. It's green and with black letters, and now when we click the button it should change it to red, and then if we click it again, blue, back and forth, back and forth. So there we have it. We have our first simple app, and it basically just changes the background. It's a super simple app, but it's pretty cool because it just shows you how much control you have over developing these apps. So thanks for joining me in this lesson, and I hope to see you in the next one. What's up, guys? In this lesson we're going to be going over loops. And what a loop is, it's basically a sequence of instructions that is continually repeated until a certain condition is reached. Now, loops go hand in hand with arrays because arrays are basically a sequence of variables. So with a loop, you can loop through the whole array, going through each variable in order to fulfill a specific goal or function that you wanted to fulfill. Now, we're going to start off with an example that makes use of loops and kind of demonstrates how it can be very useful and efficient. So let's say that we are a business owner and we have several employees under us that we have to pay a salary to. And let's say we had a great year and we want to increase their salary by, let's say, 10%. So we're giving them a 10% raise, And this can be very tedious if we're doing it individually, which is the wrong way, but I'm just going to show you for the purpose of the video. So we're going to create several employee salaries. So employee 1 equals, let's say, 10,000. Employee 2 equals 20,000. Employee 3 equals 30,000. Employee 4 equals 40,000. And employee 5 equals 50,000. Okay, so now we have a bunch of variables of the employees' salaries. If we wanted to increase the employees' salaries by, let's say, 10%, we would have to go through each individual and literally add the 10% to each one. And how we would do it is, let's say we're doing an employee 1. We would just do employee 1 equals employee 1 plus employee 1 divided by 10, which would get the 10%. So this what this is doing, it's basically doing employee 1, which is 10,000. It's redefining that variable as employee 1, which is 10,000, plus employee 1 divided by 10, which would be 1,000. So it would equal 11,000. So let's see. And yep, we got 11,000. So the formula works, except the only problem is we would have to repeat this for every single employee. So if we have 5 employees, we just have to do the same exact process every single time, just by changing the numbers. You can see that this process can be very tedious, and I'm just doing it for you in order to demonstrate that it's not fun doing this, and it can be very time consuming, especially if you have, let's say, hundreds of employees. You can see how it would take a long time. So anyways, these would all print out 11,000, 22,000, 33,000, 44,000, 55,000. And yeah, that's what we got. So now we can use loops in order to make this process a lot easier and a lot quicker and a lot less tedious. So the first loop I'm going to demonstrate is a repeat while loop. Basically what it is it's a loop that repeats the same thing while this condition is still valid. So the condition we're going to do is while index is less than, well, first we have to create the array. So we're going to create the employee salary array. We're going to put var in front, and we're going to make this equal to, and we're going to do 10,000 for employee 1, 20,000 for employee 2, 30,000 for employee 3, 40,000 for employee 4, and 50,000 for employee 5. So now we have an array, and we're going to make a variable called index, which is basically just the index of where the array is, and we're going to initiate it at 0. We're going to do index is less than employee salary dot count, so the index should never go over how many employees there are in the array. So now that we made the while, we're going to make the while condition. We're going to make the repeat function. Okay, so we're basically just going to copy this, add it right under repeat, and instead of employee 5, we're going to make it employee salary at the index of whatever the variable index is. So I'm going to do this and I'll explain it real quick. So now what we have here is we have a index that starts at 0 and an employee salary array that has all the employee salaries in one. Now this index 0 would demonstrate employee 1's salary, which is 10,000. Index 1 would indicate employee 2's salary, which is 20,000, and so on and so forth. So the function is going to start at, the repeat function is going to start at employee salary index 0, because index equals 0 at first. So this would be index 0, which is 10,000, and it's going to run the function and get 11,000 as the salary after the bonus. Then, since index is still smaller than salary count, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, since index is smaller than 5, it's going to repeat, and then it's going to go to index 1, which is the employee 2, which is 20,000. It's going to get 22,000. It's going to repeat all the way until the index is 5. Once it's 4, once it's 5, it's going to be, it's not going to be less than, so it's going to stop the function, and it's going to stop the while loop. That's right, we forgot to increment the index. So every time the repeat function gets called and the loop gets ran through, we would have to do index equals index plus 1, which basically adds 1 to the index in order to make it go to the next index, which will go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now there's not going to be an error. We're going to run it, and we're going to see that the loop, here it tells you how many times the loop ran. It ran 5 times, and that makes sense because there's 5 variables in our array. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we're going to print out the actual array, and we're going to do print employee salary, which is the array, and here it's going to print it out for us. As you can see, all of the salaries have been increased by the bonus, so 11,000, 22,000, 33,000, 44,000, 55,000. So, that was a lot easier. It's a lot less code, and it was a lot easier than having to go individually each one. But to emphasize how essential this is, we're going to make a ton of integers in order to demonstrate how easy this can make it. So, whoops. So here we have a ton of integers, and it would just take a long time in order to go through each one and add 10% to the salary. So now we're just going to literally hit run, and it's going to do the same thing. It's going to add 10% to each one just through the while loop. We don't have to worry about typing each one out. All we got to do is basically edit this in order to do whatever we want to do to all of the salaries. However, there's another loop that is a lot more used. It's a lot easier to use, and it's a lot more popular than the while loop. This is called the for in loop. Basically, it goes for I, which is the index, in, and then we're going to do employee salary dot count, and then inside we would do the function. But actually, we would have to do 0 dot 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 employee. So this basically means for I in 0 to whatever the employee count is, which right now would be whatever number of variables there are in this. It would do, I would basically be the index, and it would just go through each index of the employee count, which would be this. Okay, so inside we're basically just going to put the same exact formula with the index, except this time index, we'll just change this to index so this works with it. We're going to delete this because it's basically doing the same thing, and we're going to put print under this, and it's basically going to do the same exact thing. Okay, we have an error. Okay, so the problem here is we forgot to add a less than sign, because the 0 is going to be, it's always going to be less than, the index is always going to be less than employee salary count. So it's going to go basically from 0 to whatever the employee salary count is. And once again, I messed up. It's just 2 periods, not 3. And there we should have it. So the loop ran 16 times, which is the number of how many variables are on here, and it worked. It basically did exactly what the while loop did, except with the for loop we basically just have to code a lot less, and it's a lot easier to use, but it does basically the same thing. However, it is far more popular than the while loop, and in my opinion it's a lot easier to use. So that's all for this lesson on loops. I taught you about while loops, about for loops, and a little bit more about arrays. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and see you in the next one. Okay guys, so that concludes my course. I hope you guys learned a lot, and I want to thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me through Udemy or through email. Also, please leave a review if you haven't so already, and I'll see you guys next time.